Welcome to Think Tank, the Army Cyber Institute at West Point's podcast. At the Army Cyber Institute, we confront the Army's most critical cyber challenges. We engage across our government and with our allies to better understand how cyber is changing conflict, and reach out to academia and industry to bridge gaps and stimulate cyber research. We are here to engage you on the latest in cyber and information warfare. Thank you, everyone, for joining another podcast with the Army Cyber Institute. Today, I'm here with the West Point Band. I've got Sergeant Major Denver Dill and Chief Jonathan Crane with us. If you gentlemen don't mind just kind of explaining a little bit about who you are, where you came from, and just how did you come to be at the West Point Band?
Great. Well, let it say this first. We're really excited to have this time with you and looking forward to this morning and talking about a variety of things. So my background is I have an undergraduate in music marketing, and then along the way I was offered a scholarship to the Juilliard School, so I went and did a master's in trumpet at Juilliard, and then was a teaching assistant at Eastman for trumpet as well. When I saw the opening for the West Point Band, I auditioned and went to basic training and came right here, and because we're a special band, I was promoted to staff sergeant nearly 6 months after I arrived. Since that time, I've been in the concert band, the Hellcats, and I've oversaw the operations for the West Point Band. And in the meantime, did a little bit of work with the systems engineering department, studied influence and special operations down at MacDill, and became the team leader for what we call the Army Music Analytics team.
Hi, this is Chief Jonathan Crane. So my story getting into the Army is kind of strange, but I joined as enlisted to start as a bass player. My background, I studied music education first for my bachelor's degree, and then I studied music composition at the Bowling Green State University out in Ohio, and also at the Hart School of Music up in Connecticut. I ended up joining mostly because I gathered up quite a bit of student loan debt after all of that, and the Army provided me some relief there, and it was a great opportunity to play the instrument for my country. After serving as enlisted for a few years, deployed to Iraq for a year with the 25th Infantry Division, decided I wanted to go warrant officer, become a bandmaster. I was able to do that in 2014, and my first assignment as a commander was out at Fort Huachuca, commander of the 62nd Army Band out there. After that assignment, I was given the opportunity to come here to West Point and serve with the Army Music Analytics team and also start doing research for the Army Band's program to understand more about our effectiveness out there in the field.
Obviously, the West Point Band is a very unique organization to be a part of. And as such, I know you guys are also part of the United States Military Academy's outward-facing aspects, if you will, and you guys represent us a lot across the country. Can you kind of tell us, Sergeant Major, what are some of the events that you guys attend?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. Well, so we are the Army's oldest continuously serving band. So we trace our heritage all the way back to General George Washington when he appointed a fifer and drummer here at West Point for signaling in camp. Over the years, it's evolved to keep up with the demand and to keep up with the QRF nature, quick reaction force, that this band is for New York City. So when we do New York City engagement, frequently it's national and international engagement levels. It could be heads of state at the UN, it could be at professional sporting events, it could be anything that you think of. And so this unit requires absolute experts. So we do have everything from Sergeant Lane in the studio with us winning a Grammy to a couple different soldiers who have been on NBC's The Voice and advanced in that. We have people with doctorates. We have people with all sorts of advanced degrees, performed in every stage and with every group you can think of in the world. So it's a highly group of capable musicians that are just here to use their talents in service of the Academy. And we really take a lot of pride in working for the Academy.
Can you explain a little bit about the music analytics? Like, what exactly does that mean? What are you trying to do with it?
Basically, when there are congressional inquiries, there are people asking about Army bands. What is the actual value that you're bringing to the total Army? And to be able, that's a very difficult question. It's a big question because of a lot of the value that we bring is intangible in most cases. And so digging into well, how do you measure something that's intangible? I mean, you can, and there's many businesses are out there doing that sort of work. So it began as doing research and trying to understand what the industry was doing in these cases, digging into how are we present throughout media. That's kind of where we started. We go on TV. Well, why? What does that do? We have social media accounts. There's tons of data that comes out of these. Well, what good is all of that if you can't analyze it and understand, well, what are these numbers actually telling you? What's the story being told through this? So that's where we're trying to get to find where are we actually the effectiveness of what we're doing, and if we're meeting those mission goals that are being given to us by higher Army, the Secretary of Defense, and all of that, and how we're aligning with those strategic goals.
Well, that might be kind of feeding into how you guys even came to find out about the Army Cyber Institute's summer internship program. So the program, we bring on ROTC cadets and now even civilian college students who apply to come to a summer internship program for about 3 weeks, focusing on different Army cyber research priorities. And then I know ACI has teamed up with the West Point Band for the past 2 years and kind of helped give you guys a couple of cadets to help you with research. So how did that whole relationship start, and how has it been useful for you?
Yeah, so the Army Cyber Institute is doing these ROTC internships. We're in that spirit of education and collaboration as well. So, well, why not? Let's ask the question to see if we can collaborate with the Cyber Institute and see if we can do a project. One of the things that we kind of honed in, and one of the projects we were working on is using machine learning for text sentiment analysis. We wanted to create a program that was unique to the way people talk about us. So, and that text can come from anywhere. It can come from social media. It can come from survey, open text boxes. It can be from letters that people write to us, emails, all those different things. We get quite a bit of that information, but it's very hard to consolidate it. It's very hard to kind of understand what's coming out of that. If you're a human being trying to sift through all that information and present it in a format, well, what does all that mean? So using some of these techniques would allow us a better handle on that. We want to be able to understand key messaging. If we say we're going to deliver a message from the superintendent, let's say, or from the U.S. Army's messaging.
You want to see if it's actually having an effect.
Correct. We're using music as an emotional force to deliver those messages because we all know that music affects us as human beings. 99% of people have some kind of emotional response to music. So can we deliver the right sounds at the right time with the right messaging that get people into, whether that's, hey, I support the Army, I see what soldiers are doing out there, and I see that your music made me realize that. Or maybe it's just a maintenance of that sort of thing.
Has their research been able to help you at all?
Yeah, it's been really great. The first year, it was a little interesting. We had 2 interns, and they weren't as familiar with the types of projects that we were asking them to do. So some of this, it was a learning experience for them. So we had to get them spun up very quickly using some of the programming languages that we were used to using and using some of these machine learning techniques that they haven't really explored that much. They were kind of on a different side of computer science. So that first summer was really just knowledge building and information and trying to get something started. And they did that, and they were successful in doing that. So this following summer, when we got 2 new interns, they were able to take that project and really run with it. They had a little bit more experience. The knowledge base throughout the universities has gained in just in a year's time, because the speed of innovation is so rapid. So things that may have seemed new or different a year ago are now commonplace. So they were, oh yeah, we can do that, and they jumped right in, and we're able to create a tool for us with a very usable interface that takes 3 different machine learning models and compares and contrasts their outputs and gives a confidence interval for us. So not only can we, we're not just relying on one particular classifier for the text, because it's very easy for it to be biased, and it's obviously not perfect. It's still being developed. But when we're able to look at 3 different ones and get a confidence of that gives us a really robust answer. And so we can go to our senior leaders with confidence and say, these messages were delivered to these people at this time, and this is how they felt about them, those particular ideas. So if, say, an idea like patriotism, how much was that reflected back in our audiences? And was it a positive way, or was it in a negative way? And
hopefully positive.
Yes, hopefully positive. That's what we're always looking for. It's really great. And what it's going to help every single band Like we have over 90 bands.
I was gonna say, so do you get to, or do you plan on like sharing if you once it's kind of honed and it's more perfected? Are you trying to share that across the military
Yes, absolutely. And not only with just Army bands, but throughout the Army itself. We've been able to work with the Office of the Chief of Public Affairs assessments team, and this is another project that works. Because it's not so specific to bands, you can actually use this for any kind of text that comes back. So if a senior leader engagement, for example.
Yeah, I was going to say, as a public affairs officer, I'm all about that because you always want to have that measure of effectiveness. It's hard to sometimes get.
Exactly. And so it can be used in many different ways that's applicable across the Army and across the Department of Defense, through all different units there.
That's really neat. So Sergeant Major, we obviously just got a really good background from Chief Crane about the cadet ROTC interns helping you guys out for the past 2 years, and I'm glad it's going in a positive direction for you. Do you plan on trying to do the same thing next summer and continuing this relationship with ACI and using interns, or have you guys reached your limit?
Interdepartmental cooperation is always essential here at West Point, right? And so we absolutely want to work with ACI again in the future. We've loved the relationship. We've loved seeing it develop and present itself through the Academy Research Council as well. And we're interested in collaborating further with the band, ACI, and the Social Department, or the Combating Terrorism Center. We already are working with the Department of English and Philosophy and the Department of Mathematics and the Department of Behavioral Sciences and Leadership. We've had these relationships for years, and we're exploring different avenues of tying together the web of all of these things, because that's how you paint your best operational picture, right? Is to really think about how complex it is and not back away from the complexity, but to lean into it. And the more you lean into it, the more you're going to find, wow, these are related. We can handle this. This is something that social is dealing with. This is something English is dealing with. Behavioral science has already learned that this is how people will react in this environment. And here's the mathematical basis behind it. So we absolutely want to continue to collaborate and refine and build libraries of information and study that can be used for future generations, because that's part of what we do here with intellectual property at the Academy.
Well, gentlemen, thank you both so much for speaking with us today, for talking so highly of the Army Cyber Institute. Always appreciate that. But you guys are extremely talented. Thank you for everything that the West Point Band does on a daily basis. Is there anything that you guys would like to add, or something we might not have touched on?
So like a lot of what we need to do here is understand the information environment that surrounds us. And that's a lot of what ACI has to deal with as well, or any public affairs agency. And we've gone to great lengths to really research and understand the flow of information, how people interact with it, and what their tendencies are. So in 2017, when we started the Army Music Analytics team, it was in response to a Government Accountability Office inquiry. What is the effect of military bands? The Army started this team to say, we can find the effect everywhere. You just need to start looking. And we did, and we were overwhelmed with it over time. It was just incredible everywhere we looked. So at the time, social media wasn't quite as nefarious sounding as it is now for people, but we were telling people, no, you can absolutely predict how people or different types of people are going to react to different types of content. At the same time, we had a bottom-up review of bands. So took Track Lee, TRADOC Research and Analysis Center at Fort Lee, and their researchers, and they were looking at the entire program. .mil.pf is the way that they describe how to look at that program. And when we got to the measurement phase, the analytics team is working there with the ORSAs, looking at all of these environments. That included social media, broadcast media, which is both internet and TV and radio, right? It also includes streaming on demand services, which includes us being able to understand and articulate how our products translate through the satellite to Earth environment, right? And then you get to the person-to-person analysis. And that's where, when we brought in Mr. Crane, we really were able to up our game in understanding EEG, different effects of how people physically change and react to music. And it's been a wild, wild, fun time of study, because it is everywhere. It's not, do we have an effect? It's, how did you not know we did?
That is very interesting. Well, thank you again to the both of you for coming out today. Thank you for joining us.